What's up, everybody? Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm your host, Robert Durden, and this episode is going to be about a couple of things. I'm going to tie together some things that you guys already know and bring them full circle. We're going to talk about the unemployment insurance being $300 a week and how that is not how there's been this argument going around that that is something that is making it so the job market isn't recovering to Biden's liking, and why that's a bullshit talking point. And then I also want to talk about how Generation Z and Millennials have been uniquely affected as far as job market goes and being able to save any money during COVID, and how the blowback from that might actually be affecting people's decisions to go back to work. And that might even be a good thing. So let's start off with the unemployment insurance. It's $300 a week now. So let's do a little bit of mental math. There's $300 a week times 4 weeks. That's $1,200 a month you can make on unemployment insurance. And Biden even recently said, I think it was yesterday, that if you have a viable or a suitable job available to you and you don't take it and you keep sapping off the government or whatever, that you have to take that job. Listen, man, a lot of these corporations and people like Biden want us to go back to work for something like $1,200 a month. If you do the math, 40 hours a week, you know what that works out to be? $7.50 an hour. And all these big corporations are whining, calling the workers lazy, that the unemployment benefits are making them lazy in some way, that they don't want to come back and work for slave wages. Do you know how many states in the country you can afford a 2-bedroom apartment on minimum wage, or $7.50 an hour, $7.25 an hour? Zero. You can't do it, and people have families to feed. And here's the thing that's, I need to defeat this talking point once and for all. The onus is on the corporations to pay their workers more, not the workers to come back and work for slave wages. Now, I want to move on to the second thing I wanted to talk about, which is why a lot of people aren't going back to work, particularly young people. I saw a stat yesterday or the day before. It was an article that had came out way before this, and I had already quoted it on the show, but I saw it again yesterday, that over 50% of Generation Z has lost their job due to COVID, and 40% of the millennials. Much, much less for the boomers and for Generation X. So what that means is that all the young people were the ones that really lost their jobs. And that makes sense, because a lot of people that lost their jobs are like, clerks and, those entrance jobs. They're the first people to go because they've been in the workforce the least amount of time when cuts are needed to be made. So COVID really adversely affected the youngest two generations that are in the working force right now, to the tune of 1 out of every 2 Gen Z and 4 out of every 10, 40% of all millennials have lost their job during COVID at some point or still are unemployed. So what is happening right now, I think, is that not only are all generations kind of saying, screw $7.50 an hour, we're not going to go back to work for that amount, we're just going to do stuff at home. But it seems to me, I think particularly the 2 youngest generations that have had to deal with this economy and only know this horrible slave wage and a bunch of depressions, they're just saying, we can make money at home doing stuff on the internet, and we can make more money than any of these corporations or, even small businesses that are offering minimum wage can offer us. So get fucked. We're not going back to work. And that's why Biden's jobs growth is not going up the way that he thought. I think what's going on is the younger generation are saying, fuck it. If this is all you guys are offering, we're not going to take these jobs. We can do other things with the tech that we have at home, and we can make more money than this. And they're just not going to go back to work. They'll keep their unemployment insurance. But I myself, I lost my job during COVID, Ian as well. Ever since we lost our jobs, we're just picking up money doing our hobbies instead. And we're way happier. We get way more time with our families. We don't get told what to do. And I think a lot of people that are our age, in mid-30s to down to about 17 or 18, are just like, no, I'm not going to go work at Kroger for $8 an hour. Or I worked at Planet Fitness last year, I'm a doctor, remember, for $8 an hour for a couple of months. And I just say, you know, if I'm going to make that amount of money, or anybody that's in my position says, I'm going to make that amount of money doing this shit work and being told by somebody I hate that makes $15 an hour that they tell me what to do, I'd rather just be at home and make $8 an hour. So I think a lot of the younger people are actually taking that avenue. And that's why I think that the jobs market is not growing the way that they expected it to. And until these corporations or our government make sure that we get living wages, I hope it's a trend that continues, and I think it will continue. Now, last point, guys. What I would like to do now is make a plea to everybody that's a millennial and a Gen Z that fits the description that I just gave. If you, in fact, are out of work because of COVID or out of work because of whatever circumstances right now, and you're not looking forward to going back to work, or you hate the job that you went back to work at later for less wages, I'm telling you, just quit and stay quit. We can do a general strike without doing the general strike if simply those two generations refuse to go back to work. You'll put the corporations in a stranglehold, and we're already seeing it. All of these fast food restaurants, you're seeing the signs on the doors that everybody walked off at once, that they can't get anybody to work at these joints anymore because they're not paying enough, right? And they're blaming it on their workers, of course, calling them lazy. But then if you look, a lot of them now, you've seen the minimum wage at some of these places go from like $10 hiring to 12 or 13, only in a matter of a couple of months. Why is that happening? Because teenagers and younger people like me can see the writing on the wall, and they're not going to go work those jobs for those wages. So they're going to have to raise the wages, or else they won't have workers. So what we're doing is we're effectively bargaining. But we can't continue to bargain and force those wages up unless all of us agree to just not go back to work. Hold them hostage until they start actually offering fair wages. And then what you've got is effectively a general strike without actually having to do a general strike. Because I don't think we're going to get everybody to quit their jobs. And I certainly don't think that you're going to get people that are of like the middle class or even lower middle class that are still making ends meet but not doing very well. You're not going to get them to quit their jobs right now because they know that the other options are like weak unemployment insurance or, you know, other hellscapes like lower paying jobs, whatever. But we can get people that are out of work right now to go do other things that don't involve them going back to work for these corporations. Don't go back to work. Particularly don't go back to work for Amazon, McDonald's, Walmart, all these huge corporations that traditionally treat their workers terribly. Do not go back to work for them. And if you can, don't go back to work at all. Find some hobbies. I guarantee you have enough skills that you could just do a YouTube show like this on a couple of things. Do a cooking show or fixing your car show or whatever you're good at and you like to do at home. I guarantee you could make $8 an hour off of doing something at home. I used to go buy used books from Goodwill that I knew were worth something and sell them on eBay. I go spend $10 and make $100. And I would just go thrift shopping to do it. There are certain things that you can do to make more than what Amazon or McDonald's or Wendy's or Subway is willing to pay you. And if we hold out long enough, they'll be forced to raise their wages. So it's effectively a general strike without actually making the leap, taking that leap of faith and everybody quit their jobs and just don't go back to work thing. I don't know if you're going to ever unite people to do that. But if the younger generations continue what they're doing already, which is fuck it, this economy doesn't work for us. All we've seen is depression and no raise in wages and, you know, pandemic that flubbed us and dropped us all in the dirt much more than it did the older generations. Fuck it, we're not going back to work. I'm not going back to work. You want me to come back to work? Incentivize me. That's what I would do. I am not going back to work. I'm making it work with hobbies at home, and I suggest you guys do exactly the same thing. And the longer that we do this, we can raise the wages for our kids, and we can make it easier as a millennial. I'd like to make it easier for the Gen Z to actually have a fucking chance. Like, I'm about to enter the second half of my, career or my working life or whatever, but I would love it if we all do general strike now, and then wages in 5 or 10 years are up at $20 an hour because we've, as two generations, bound together and said, no, we're not going to work for these slave wages. We're not willing to be slaves. Sorry. So hashtag Millennial Gen Z general strike? I don't know. But that's I think that would be easier than doing an actual general strike. So if you hear this, spread the word. Don't go back to work if you were put out of work by COVID, but especially the younger gens. Let's band together and say, fuck it. You guys aren't going to pay us. We're not going back to work. Get fucked if you don't like it. And then do some stuff at home that you can make $10 an hour on or $15 an hour on. I'm sure you can. I have faith in you guys. So keep fighting the good fight. I'll talk to you guys later.